Welcome to the Crypto Wise channel. My name is Dave. Thank you for being here and showing up for yourself to learn, to improve, to make some healthy decisions in the crypto market. Today we're going to be talking about Aerofinance, Aerodrome Finance, or Aero, and we're going to be looking at its bear market bottom targets and a very quick update on Bitcoin, and we're also whatever else comes up that flows with today's episode. So if you're new to the channel, we focus on macro technical analysis and facts in the charts so we can have clarity and easy decision in the crypto markets, laying out highest probabilities based on chart patterns, confluence, and indicators. No news, no hype, no narrative, just cool, calm, and focused. Also want to iterate that the crypto market has a lot of predictability, and you too can learn how to read the charts and make some good investment decisions based on what is showing up in the chart. There's always a pattern. There's always something that shows up in the charts to give us a strong indication that probabilities will shift to the downside movement or to the upside. This is why we look at the overview macro analysis, because the macro, the larger time frames like the 2 weekly, the monthly, the weekly time frame, when we see indicators of price wanting to reverse, it is a stronger indicator, much more reliable, and this way we can actually make great assessments when to buy and when to sell and have a plan before we get involved so that we can be ready when there's volatility in the market and not feel like we missed out and buying in at the worst times and then selling at the worst times. It's the opposite. We get mentally prepared. Okay. Another thing I want to share is that, which I made videos about this before, and I will be sharing soon the videos I made, but I did make videos when Bitcoin was priced out here in about February 2023, talking about how this was the bottom of the bear market and that we were going to go up from there, which we did. Also, I made a video when the price was sitting around somewhere around here. Well, I made many videos when we were in this consolidation talking about how Bitcoin was going to go to 125K based on one chart pattern. An obvious one, a very reliable one. And that's pretty much what happened. I think we topped 126, 100 or something like that. So very, very close to that target. It was met perfectly. And yeah, so two macro calls that I talked about that were met, that happened. And it's just reading the charts. It's nothing magical about what I did. I just happened to see the pattern and make an assessment based on that. It's very simple. So I'm here to help educate, support you guys so you guys can do the same thing. Don't get caught up in the FOMO, the fear, all that shit. You just gotta understand how these things move. Okay, getting into it. Aero. So let's go. Aero is a different coin. It's relatively new. It had a pretty significant increase from its swing low to high, a 3,000% move. It is a Coinbase coin. And this is why the Coinbase chart actually has the most history. And its structure's been holding up very well. It's actually looking really good relative to a lot of coins. The April low, which was the tariff crash in 2025, has held up. It actually never went below. I mean, it got supported on that level. And a lot of other coins, including Bitcoin, actually broke below that low. So on Bitcoin, it was over here. Here's the April low, which we're still we're back above it slightly, but if I go on the weekly, we can see that this was the April low right there at the bottom of the screen, and we did in fact break below it, and we're kind of hovering into that area at the moment. So structurally, it's holding up pretty well. Because it's a new coin, actually, just before I go into more technicals, I just want to share too as well what Aero is. So Aero is a token associated with the Aerofinance, right? Which is a decentralized exchange built on the Base network. And the Base network, a layer 2, so the layer 2 solution for Coinbase, right? So they kind of have a decentralized solution on the Base network, and it was, basically created for Coinbase. The Aero token is used for governance, where holders can vote escrow their tokens to participate in protocol trading fees and influence future development of the platform. There's also it's a liquidity hub, right? So it's basically a very important financial solution, and it's well integrated into the Base network, which is a very reliable network that Coinbase has created. So, and Coinbase is a large exchange and a well-known one, and has a good reputation, let's say, overall. And so that's actually a really strong fundamental thing as to why Aero would do well. So yeah, I just want to point that out. I think it's important to note. Not huge on fundamentals, but when things like that, if I know that just basic integrations and where it's established and who's running the show kind of thing, it actually helps put the pieces together as to why, just another factor as to why the technicals would do well, right? It's the same thing I did with XRP before it rallied like over 500%, almost a couple years ago now. Yeah, almost a couple years ago. So yeah, here we go. Back to the technicals. So we've had the strength of this show pretty well. We do have an established trend, so let's draw that out. So we have a low here and a lower low, like this. So we'll just extend that out. And we have a high and a lower high, which gives us this kind of channel, okay? And that is likely to be respected until major changes happen. And I do believe that there's more downside because we're still tracking this move to the downside for Bitcoin. Let me just get a better chart here. Yeah, this is a better one. We're still tracking this third wave to the downside. Bitcoin could be spending another couple weeks up here in this area. We've had a 3-wave move down, and we're looking at another small 3-wave correction move up. Filling the CME is what I'm expecting before the price rolls over into another larger 3-wave move down. Well, another large 3-wave move down that makes up a large 3-wave move altogether, right? 1, 2, 3. So, and we can see that Aero, let's just let that be the Bitcoin update. I don't have much more to say with Bitcoin. But we can see that Aero is actually following Bitcoin's price movement pretty well, actually. So the expectation is that this pullback that we've had here does look like a 3-wave move to the upside. And a typical correction for this move down that we've had so far. It could push a little higher. It's very corrective looking. The structure, the candles, the way it's choppy and ugly, not impulsive. If we had stronger candles to the upside, like this, for example, like these, right? This is the 2-day chart. So in 4 days, it had a nice move, of like 60%. If we had something like that, then it's like, wow, that's strong and there's good volume. That tells us impulse, price wants to go up. We don't have that here. And in the same sort of move here, 57%, it took like what looks like about a month. It did this in like 4 or 5, in like 6 days or something like that. So it's like half the time, a quarter of the time. So yeah, very choppy, corrective looking. So not expecting upside at all. I do expect this to break down. If it does push a little higher, this area here will act like strong resistance. If you're not if you're still holding Aero, this area here in the 63 to 53 cent area would be a good place to sell if you're still holding before this price is likely to reverse. The three-wave move that I just mentioned about Bitcoin very much looks like this could be a three-wave move like this to the downside and bottoming, actually, yes, right around this end of September timeframe. Let's zoom out. Right, remember three-wave moves are corrective moves. Okay, very similar to Bitcoin. Three-wave move to the downside, three-wave move up as a counter trend corrective move, and then making up the next three-wave move. Could look like something like that, where this low does get taken out. The April low does get taken out. Provided that April low gets taken out, the next support levels will be at this downward sloping support line. These do happen. I've seen this play out many times. We can have upward sloping resistance. We can also have downward sloping resistance. We also have downward sloping support. So that being said, let's get rid of this line. I don't know, why is that there? Let me just see something here for a moment. Yeah, I don't see any levels there. That being said, I would expect whenever that this line gets tagged would probably be a strong low. How that's going to happen, if it gets down there, I don't know. But I could say that it's very possible that it bottoms around the same time Bitcoin does, because it seems to be following Bitcoin's movement. There is a stronger bottoming, I would say stronger support zone here due to the structure here. I wish there was more candles so I can see what this looks like, but I don't know if this is the actual beginning, but I would expect this area to be supported and that be the actual bottom if it makes it down there. Depending on how this looks, we could wick into this downward sloping support line and then come back up. But it would make a lot more sense that it looks very similar to these where they're large wicks. So the expectation is a three move down into the support, bottoming somewhere around September. Yeah, like September, October, and that being a low, and then a bottoming structure like a W form, and then more highs from there, and eventually breaking this downward sloping resistance. Other factors of why that would be is we're tracking that corrective move to the downside for Bitcoin, and the distance between where we are now and where Bitcoin is likely to go. We can actually make an assessment. If I go to Bitcoin and we look at the previous move down that we've had, we're expecting a very similar move on Bitcoin. We had this very strong impulse to the downside between January, mid-Jan to beginning of Feb. Was a almost 40% move to the downside. If we look at Aero, from that point was this high here. We had a 56% down. If we were to measure 56% down from where we are now, it would put us around here, around 20 cents. Yeah. Yeah, it could. It's possible that it makes it there. You know, I'm going to do this actually. But that's the thing. If it's following Bitcoin and we get this move May, June to the downside, it's very possible that, I'm going to take this back down. It's very possible that it's just following Bitcoin a bit better, a bit nicer. This is the type of coin I think that would bottom when Bitcoin does, based on just the general structure and trend. So the thing is, Bitcoin is likely to do this third wave to the downside. 1, 2, 3 in 3 waves. 1, 2, 3, something like that. Or maybe 1, 2, 3, right? And then up, right? So that would mean the first impulse to the downside could take us somewhere in this area, and then we have another quick down before it comes back up, and maybe we have this kind of like inverse head and shoulders sort of bottoming structure before it comes up. That would be really nice to see, actually. So I'm expecting this next wave down to be following Bitcoin, as it has been following Bitcoin pretty nicely for an altcoin. All right, most altcoins don't follow it this closely, but if we look at this chart here, how it's overlaid, just move it kind of over here. Despite these aggressive swings, it has been following the trend pretty nicely. Right, we can see that the top is generally around. So the blue is the arrow, and Bitcoin obviously is the candles behind it. So we can see when Bitcoin topped, so did the blue, right? Not exactly, but as it was coming down, the blue did come down. It was choppy, but it did come down. Consolidation, it actually went lower into the consolidation, so it was just late, I guess, late to the party. But either way, trend is down. Consolidation, it had a corrective move into the peak, and then it moved down, right, at the exact same time. But now it's following Bitcoin's like ABC corrective move here to the upside, this three-wave move, pretty nicely. So I'd expect Aero to just follow Bitcoin pretty nicely based on that. And yeah, because if you've been watching some of my other videos, I talked about how altcoins can, some like to bottom early, but some of them don't. So it's just a matter of the structure and support and resistance levels that we're looking at. So something like this would make a lot of sense, bottoming somewhere around, I mean, I'd probably move this over a little bit, bottoming somewhere around early October, end of September, and then maybe having this kind of bottoming sort of structure, which would look very, very good as a buying signal. So my, based on all this, I would say the accumulation zone, the buying zone, I would say is somewhere, I'm going to lift this up a little bit. Just let's get it to 18. The buying zone, I would say, I don't know if we're going to make it there. Let's see. It's because it's this. Yeah, I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to lift this up a little bit. Let's put it at 20. I'm going to aim a little higher just so we get accumulated. So end of September. Okay, this makes more sense. And then there's a space of 44% the upside. It should be close to half that. Yeah, the downside. So, okay, this makes more sense. So accumulation zone, somewhere between 20 and 12 cents. Realistic, I think, to put orders down there as a bear market bottom, and it's its very first one. Another confluence factor is that altcoins do love to do 90% down from their swing high, and we haven't had 90 yet. We're sitting so far at 88. So first bear markets for altcoins, very, very common to see sub 90% down from their cycle peak. So getting into this box, we'll put it somewhere between 92 and 94% down, standard issue for altcoins. So especially for a first bear market, Solana did something like that. Sui is aiming to do something like that. It's his first bear market too. Very, very common to see because it's not very well established and hasn't had much time and structure. So that was that. That was the Bitcoin update as well. Yeah, accumulation zone between 20 and 12 cents. That's where I would leave it. Yeah, and if you guys find this helpful, supportive, appreciate comments and subscribing and likes, share with your friends who you think maybe would be interested in some technical analysis like this for the macro. All right, guys, much love, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.